Hey, what is going on, everybody? Jerma here with the Diablo 3 review that I promised probably 4 or 5 days ago. And I've played through the game already with 2 different characters. I have a Witch Doctor and a Barbarian. And the Barbarian has gone through Hell, so I have pretty much all the difficulties except for Inferno covered. I've also dumped about 60 hours into the game so far, so now I think I can sit down and do a concise, honest review of this game. So I'm going to break this presentation down, I guess, into 3 different bullet points. That's going to be story/pacing, gameplay, and fun factor. And of course, there are a lot of different subcategories that can fit into those 3 areas, so I'll make sure to touch upon as much as I can. But let's get started right now. I'm going to start with the story and the pacing. So Diablo 3's storyline takes place 20 years exactly after the events of Diablo 2. The world is in absolute turmoil after Tyrael, the Archangel of Justice, threw his sword into the World Stone and it pretty much ruined everything. We'll put it that way. So without giving away any spoilers, I will tell you that the story is very, very well done. There's a lot of twists, there's a lot of things you did not think was going to happen. And of course, there's obviously some things you knew were going to happen. You can see things from a mile away in this game at some points. That aside, the cinematics in this game really draw you in and really help to pull the story together. Especially because Blizzard, of course, has a really, really long track record of having incredible cinematics, which absolutely rival the highest budget movie you've ever seen.
I defy you.
So the pacing of this story and the pacing of the game in general, it'll take you probably 6 to 8 hours to complete the normal difficulty, and it's very, very linear. Those of you that remember Diablo 2, you had to really explore, and you had to really know where you were going. You had to find out on the map, where am I going, what town am I in, what's the next town? In Diablo 3, they kinda drag you along by one hand, and they show you exactly where to go, and there's never a point in Diablo 3, not one point, where you don't know what to do and you have to explore. And I think that kind of takes away from the real experience. It takes away from the questing. That takes away from the drive to play. A good pro to that con, though, is when you make a new character, you don't have to spend the huge amount of time figuring out where to go and what to do and what randomly generated part of the map you're in, because obviously it's pretty linear. So making new characters is encouraged in this game, and it's actually a lot easier than it used to be in Diablo 2. So the gameplay now. Let's talk about the gameplay. What they did, the massive changes they made to this game. If you played Diablo 2, then Diablo 3 is going to be a totally different breed to you. It's going to be a totally different world, because of course they've removed a lot of the customization. Now before I say anything about customization, they removed attribute points. You no longer put in your own attribute points. They took away skill points. You do not put in skill points into a tree anymore. They just give you every single move that you can possibly get in the game, and you pick the ones you want to use. And at the end of the day, you end up with 6 active abilities, ones that you can actually click on, things that actually do things on the screen, and 3 passives. And there is a lot of choice. It doesn't seem like there is. On a very base level, it seems like they took away all the customization they possibly could have, and they just said, hey, here's every single move your character can do. Just pick whatever ones you want. You can use them whenever you want. There's no respecking or anything like that. But the really intuitive thing that they did in Diablo 3, which is something I actually absolutely agree with, is the skill runes. So every single move in this game, whether that be Blow Dart, or Cleave, or Bash, or Arcane Orb, every single move has 5 different runes that drastically change the way the move works. So what ends up happening is each move has 5 different moves built into it. So you end up with an endless amount of build possibilities and character customization possibilities because there's 5 million different combinations of these runes and spells. And using these abilities, the combat in this game is unbelievable. If there's one reason to pick up this game, it is because of the satisfying combat. I can't tell you how amazing it is to charge into a group of 50 enemies and just bash the absolute crap out of them, and have that little pop-up come up in front of the screen telling you how many enemies you killed. You get almost like kill streaks in this game. The more people you kill in a row, the more experience you get. And like I said, everything is so fluid, everything is so streamlined, and they did a really, really good job of making sure this was paced very well in the build process. So 2 thumbs up for sure for the gameplay of Diablo 3. So finally we come to fun factor. This is probably the most important part of the entire review, because I have a lot to say about this, and it brings me back to when I was a younger kid playing Diablo 2. But before we get into that, I'm going to just briefly talk about how fun this game is. If you get more than 2 or 3 of your friends to get into the same party, you will have the most fun out of any game this year. Getting into a party of a few people, questing, getting loot, it's very, very addicting and very, very fun. And talking about the loot system, so this is where I really differ in opinion with a lot of people that love Diablo 3, and that is the loot system. So what they did, they added a auction house into Diablo 3. So while you're questing, while you're adventuring with your friends, you pick up random items, they go in different categories. There is magical, rare, and legendary. And what they did in Diablo 3, because there is an auction house and because they're adding a real money auction house, that's right, you can spend real money for items in Diablo 3. It's not out yet, as of this recording of this review, but it's coming soon. And essentially what that does, when you make a real money auction house, or you make an auction house in general, you have to make the loot rarer, and you have to make it actually have economical value. And I think that's where they went off the beaten path a little bit with this game, because in Diablo 2, stuff would drop all the time. You would kill an Act 5 boss, or you'd kill an Act 3 boss in Hell or Nightmare difficulty, and 3 rares and 2 uniques and 1 set item would drop. In Diablo 3, you don't really see any of those items. You see rares, but you never get to see the legendary, you never get to see the uniques. And I think that really is a huge pull away from the franchise, because the reason why people played this game for so long was to collect items. It was a treasure hunt. It was a huge, awesome thing to kill Baal or kill Diablo on Hell, and he drops 2 uniques and 3 rares and 2 sets. It was just amazing. And I'll tie this back to a real situation in Diablo 3. I'm not going to tell you the name of the boss, but the final boss in the game, on Hell difficulty, Shibby was in the call, Star was in the call, we were all in the call, and I listened to them. I actually wasn't at that point in the game where they were, but I was listening to them do strategies, running around, kiting them, watch out, don't stand in that, oh god, and it took like 15 minutes for them to kill this final boss in Hell difficulty, and nothing dropped. They all said that maybe 2 blues or 2 regular items dropped and maybe 1 rare. That is not the way this series needs to be taken. The risk versus the reward in Diablo 3 doesn't really seem to be there. And like I said, in Diablo 2, you'd kill a boss in Nightmare, and he would drop all kinds of stuff, and you could talk with your friends. Oh, what's that? Is that better for me? Is that better for you? It just feels very, very flat in Diablo 3, because there's nothing really drops. And that's really just my own personal opinion. There are a lot of people that love the new system, because of course when you have an auction house, and you bring real money into the situation, things have to be more rare. You can't have crazy drops anymore, because the auction house will just get flooded. So I can totally understand the direction, but I don't necessarily agree with it. And I guess my final thoughts on this game are, if you are a huge, massive Diablo 2 fan, you might get let down in a lot of aspects. But this game is incredible. This is one of the best releases this year for sure. And it's so much fun. Get your friends together, go through Nightmare, go through Hell, play the challenges. It is amazing. But it does fall flat in a lot of the staple of the franchise sort of ways. But I would totally recommend this game. It has lived up to a lot of my expectations in regards to gameplay, in regards to story. Because, I mean, for the most part, I wanted to see the story in Diablo 3, and it really does deliver. So I would recommend this game. I'm not going to give really a letter grade, or I'm not going to give a point score or something, because I think that's really, that deters a lot of people from certain things. So, yes, I recommend Diablo 3, and hopefully this review helped you decide if you were going to get it as well. But anyways, guys, I'm going to get going here. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys all next time. So take care, everybody.